Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Let's Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined by Daniel Starkand, and making his DodgerHeads debut, Blake Williams, also of DodgerBlue.com. Guys, it's good to be together, and it's a Tuesday. We knew there was going to be some qualifying offer news, but as it relates to Tyler Anderson, maybe the first surprise, as far as I'm concerned, of the offseason. We knew Tyler Anderson may or may not reject the qualifying offer. He rejects it. That was not the huge surprise. It was that in conjunction with that news, we get reports that he has already agreed to a 3-year, $39 million deal with the Los Angeles Angels. Daniel, what were your reactions? Like, were you surprised to have seen this come together so quickly?
I'd say I was surprised at first, but like the more I've thought about it, like the more sense it makes, just because Anderson had to decide whether or not to accept or reject the qualifying offer today. And if he was going to reject it, we've talked about this before. His market, was going to be hindered by that, just because he now has a draft pick attached to him. So if he could go out there and get a deal before having to make that decision, then it makes sense, because then he doesn't have to worry, like, what am I going to get in this market with a draft pick attached to me? And if he didn't go out and find the deal he did with the Angels, then I think he was legitimately, considering accepting it. So in that sense, it makes sense that it all kind of happened at the same time. But I was a little surprised that he inked a deal just, this quick, just because it's November 15th and there's so many other names out there. But hey, good for him as far as, I'm concerned.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I wasn't really surprised it happened there, because I felt like if he didn't get a multi-year big money deal, he would have taken the qualifying offer. So I wasn't surprised to see it happen at the same time. I was more surprised it was with the Angels, because he's talked about how much he wanted to win for the last year, and that's why he signed with the Dodgers. So just going to a team that hasn't won in quite a while, like, they have some of the pieces and he can be one of them to help them win, but it was a little shocking to see him go there.
I love that. Blake just coming out firing his debut episode, and it's like, hey, you wanted to win and you signed with the Angels. Blake, let me come right back to you. 3 years, $39 million. Were you surprised that the Dodgers weren't willing to match this? Because I presume if the Dodgers were willing to match it, he would have preferred to stay with the Dodgers. Would you have been okay with that 339 number for Anderson?
I would have been. I was surprised they didn't go to that. It seems like a really good deal, especially for a pitcher of his quality. But I think they might be shooting for higher end targets, like a DeGrom or Verlander type, if they're going to go 3 years on a pitcher. So I guess at the end of the day, I'm not that surprised, but I would have matched it.
Daniel, would you have gone 3 for 39 with Tyler Anderson?
I would have as well. I mean, that's not anything crazy. Like, if you look at the market value for starting pitching, it's probably going to be pretty high, especially for, a guy coming off the year he just had. So yeah, I definitely would have matched it, but I'm also not, necessarily mad that they didn't. Like, I think there's benefits to not matching it now. They get the draft pick. They have that money to spend, elsewhere. So in that sense, I think it's, kind of, as much as we wanted TA back, I think it's a pretty solid start to the offseason for the Dodgers. Like, first they bring back Kershaw on the 1-year deal. Now it's looking like they're going to lose both Anderson and Trey Turner, but they get 2 draft picks for both of them, and they have a ton of money to spend elsewhere. So I would have matched it, but I'm also not, it's not something I'm over the moon about.
Yeah, and to clarify something on the qualifying offer, because I've gotten this wrong in previous videos, because the Dodgers, where they are at a tax level, the picks they receive, I've been saying after the second round, because they're at the tax level they are, it's actually after the 4th round. And Blake, am I remembering right that they would get 2 of those? 1 for Trey Turner if he were to sign elsewhere, and 1 for Tyler Anderson?
Yeah, but both of them are going to be after the 4th round, which,
yeah,
knowing the Dodgers, they've had a lot of good picks up in the top 5 rounds, so... But it's still less than the second they'd get.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing with the 339, right? It's not only would you match 3 for 39 with Tyler Anderson, but it's essentially then having to ask, would we give him 3 years and $39 million and forfeit a 4th round pick that we would be getting in exchange for him as well? And even the 4th round pick, you could say the draft pool money that we could then spend in a 1st round or a 2nd round or that kind of a thing. And so I think the whole thing is a different math equation. And I think ultimately, while it's sad for me as an Oregon Ducks fan to lose Tyler Anderson, one of the few that I think the only one we had left now, with Clevenger gone, but that's a bummer to me because I think he's also very good. I think he was durable. I think you could just trust him to go out there and give you 30 starts, which I don't know if there's anybody other than Julio that you feel like you can say that about on the Dodgers roster right now. But I think at that number and with the draft pick and all that, I can justify it. I can get to it. And so this second question I want to ask real quick. It will be a longer video that we have coming out in the next couple of days. But Blake, I'll come to you first. The name that has been floated as this move has happened, Ken Rosenthal, I believe, was the first one to make this connection, is Justin Verlander. Presumably, I would imagine on a 1, maybe a 2-year deal for an older Verlander, but a higher ceiling guy. Just quickly, 30 seconds, how do you feel about Verlander as a quote-unquote replacement for Tyler Anderson?
Verlander, the baseball player, is fantastic, and I'm not going to debate that. Like, his talent on the rotation would arguably be the best. He's one of the game's elite pitchers, but just from like a personal standpoint of being with the Astros and being kind of hypocritical about some things, I'm not like a huge fan of him from that sense. But if we're just talking about the player, yeah, bring him in. I'm on board.
Daniel?
I feel the exact same way that Blake does. He's 40 years old, so that's definitely something to consider. So it would have to be a 1-year deal, maybe 2 years max. But he also, another important thing is that he does not have the qualifying offer attached to him. So the Dodgers would not be sacrificing a draft pick to sign him. We know how much, they value their draft picks. Like if there's two players that are similar, but one has a draft pick attached to him and one doesn't, we know they're going to go for the one that doesn't. And like Blake said, I mean, he's a really good pitcher. He's going to win the Cy Young this year. So we talk a lot about how the Dodgers are looking to add the top end talent. Like they're not necessarily looking for the middle of the pack guys. And as far as, starting pitchers on the free agent market, that's him and DeGrom are the two top end guys out there.
Okay, I lied. I have one more question, another brief one. Daniel, do you think Andrew Heaney comes back to the Dodgers now with this news?
I'd say the odds are higher now just because he could fill that kind of innings eater, mid to bottom of the rotation type role that Anderson was kind of in. I still think he's probably looking for a similar deal that Anderson just got. And I don't think the Dodgers would give him that. He does not, he didn't get the qualifying offer. So he has that working for him, at least on the open market. But I would think if he, if maybe there's not a market there and he wants to come back on a 1-year deal, the Dodgers would be open to it. But if it's a similar multi-year deal, I'd expect him to be gone as well.
Blake, do you think Heaney's back with the Dodgers now because of Anderson's move?
I don't think so. I think they're going to be looking for the higher end, and I think Heaney showed enough that some team that's desperate for pitching is going to give him a multi-year deal. So I'd say the odds are higher, but I still don't really see it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you both. One quick note about the Angels, by the way. I love this tweet that the Angels have now signed in back-to-back years guys with qualifying offers attached to them, Syndergaard and now Tyler Anderson, which has cost them all sorts of things, and to go after guys that are, number 3, maybe on a good day, number 4 starters. So shout out to the Angels for continuing to be the Angels on that front. That's Daniel Starkand. That's Blake Williams. My name is Jeff Spiegel. Again, this is Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. As always, make sure you're following us on social media at DodgerBlue1958 everywhere. Subscribe, ring the notification bell here as well. If you're a podcast person, we have podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google. So please check that out. And of course, make sure you're subscribed here because we've got all sorts of breaking news throughout the offseason. We'll be here breaking it all down. So we appreciate you joining us. And as always, go Dodgers.